I'm Samuel Moyn. I teach law and history at Yale University. Welcome to my exp. Human rights as they become triumphant around the end of the Cold War as a new language of idealism in politics are selective. Like all things human, they prioritize certain things over others. Namely, the whole idea of human rights is that there are sacrosanct entitlements, free speech, integrity of the body, maybe some notion of sufficient provision, like enough housing or health that every human deserves. But what we've seen is that certain other priorities can get lost when human rights achieve the prominence they have in our world. Consider that the age of human rights since the 1970s is also the age of the victory of the rich on the world stage. In many national settings, there had been an era of welfare states around the time of World War II that achieved unprecedented distributional or material equality for fellow citizens compared to the Gilded Age before, and our own period of often expanding inequality. In relation to this situation, even when movements and law stress economic and social rights, like entitlements to a basic amount of housing or health, they prioritize an entitlement to a sufficient minimum of the human decencies in life. You might call that a floor of protection. But by the same token, that very priority means that there's little focus on any ceiling on inequality. When the United Nations was founded in 1945, its purpose was to forestall war. And trials after World War II of National Socialist leaders like the Nuremberg trials were all about principally indicting them for making war, not for war crimes or other of human rights violations in the midst of wars once they start. Our age is very different. The priority that human rights are given focus on not whether states get along or not in the international system, or whether violence is deployed by powerful states, but instead on the basic protections that human beings should have even in war. And so once again, the age of human rights seems to be one in which the priority given to basic protections, the right to life most obviously, takes our attention away or goes along with another problem. Since the end of the Cold War, the great powers, including the United States and the United Kingdom, have gone to war far more frequently than they did before the end of the Cold War. And so with the loss of pacifist movements, which were once quite prominent, human rights is not focusing on the outbreak of war, even though it can sometimes help humanize the wars that do break out. Human rights, for very good reason, when they become the priority, don't play well, don't fit naturally with democratic self-determination. And in fact, the image in many people's minds when they think about human rights is that of the vulnerable and weak minorities who need protection from majority politics. And so human rights advocacy, as well as law, has very frequently been juristocratic. Its goal is to transfer authority over basic decision-making, not to legislatures, but to judges. And once again, in this case, one can worry that looking at human rights could leave us unprepared to engage as fully in the rough and tumble of assembling a majority coalition for whatever broad set of values we cherish. Very few of those who've advocated human rights understand themselves to be seeking majority consent through embedding human rights in a package of attractive policies so that, just for instance, majorities won't vote for right-wing populists and instead will protect the weak and vulnerable as part of the interests they pursue for their own sake.